Welcome, everyone, to another Way to Think About a podcast where real conversations replace right answers. We're Lynn and Cynthia, longtime friends, exploring life's messy questions with humor and heart. And Todd Bertani, welcome, dear friend and Lutheran minister, and so much more than that. Todd, your life really holds faith, certain failures like we all have, love, redemption, all in one beautiful story. So when you sit with your whole life journey, where are you now? Like really, where are you now?
Oh, well, where I am now is just life is full and beautiful and wonderful, and I have a beautiful woman in my life who's my wife now, uh, and just I'm doing what I love to do, and I have a wonderful relationship with my kids. In fact, my son, who just turns 24 today,
Wow.
Dylan,
Happy
and
birthday.
I got to talk to him, um, and I have a great relationship with my son and my daughter. My daughter's name is Tyler, and no, life is just really wonderful, and I think it's a product of just like I think the lifelong journey of all of us is to learn how to live well and to live into who we've been crafted to be by the creator. And so yeah, I mean it's just so abundant right now. And so yeah, life is wonderful. And you know 10 years ago it wasn't. 10 years ago
Mm,
my whole life was falling apart. And it was, it needed to happen. And you know so it's been a long journey, but I think the fruit of that is what my life is now.
yeah, it's so beautiful.
Well, and isn't it true that a lot of the teachings that we've learned, especially in the Christian faith, are parables that we can put in our own life, like 40 days in the wilderness, can be
Right,
used in so many different ways, dark night of the soul, when we're going
right,
through things, right?
right. And resurrection, we just celebrated Easter a few weeks ago. And so I think that uh, yeah, it's about resurrection and renewal, restoration, and then that's a lifelong process. And if we look at anyone's life, there's going to be both crucifixion and resurrection, and
Okay.
wilderness experiences, and then through that, my faith has deepened and just grown in terms of trusting how God is walking with me in my life, and how I've been blessed, and just really to just celebrate those blessings. Um, so
So, Todd, I want to speak to people out there. Well, a couple of things. My brain went in five different directions at the same time. Hi. One one of the ways it was going was, today, I I'm sure that if you interviewed anybody during the time that they were alive, they would say, "This is the hardest time of ever being alive as a human." Um, but what would you, what can we tell people? And the second place my brain went was how language really limits us as far as, my understanding of a word, your understanding of a word, another person's understanding of a word, and then how people have abused, disabused language to for their own understanding. And I think that maybe, Todd, my understanding is certainly in the last 15 years or so, in traditional faith traditions, people have walked away from the church
mhm.
because they get the efforts. Why?
Yeah, well, I think it's because the way religion, especially Christianity in our culture, is presented, it's um it's presented in a way that's judgmental. It's
Yeah.
presented in a way that you know that excludes. And I don't And then I mean, especially now with just the whole debate around Christian nationalism
Oh, yeah.
and watching, our some of our national leaders, be depicted as Christ-like figures in paintings
Oh
and
my goodness gracious. Can
right,
we
and
just take a moment and say how déclassé that was? Ugh.
yeah, no, for sure, and
Oh,
and
God.
and with it too, it's s- praying for death and destruction to our country's enemies, and so to me that does not reflect uh who I understand Christ to be and Christ's teachings. And so what the part of why people are leaving is because of that judgmentalism and that sense of exclusion and that sense of really of it's almost like a theology of hate.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and so that's you know because to me, faith, God is an inclusive and it's open and it's expansive and it's God is loving and caring and um, forgiving and embracing all people, no matter what they look like, no matter what their gender is, no matter what their sexuality is, no matter what their nationality is, no matter what their citizenship status is. We're all loved and embraced and I have a deeper sense of that after my own dark night of the soul of
Right.
God didn't go anywhere. God was with me actually more intimately and more profoundly. And and so, my hope is that other understanding of Christianity that we can really speak out more and more because there's a whole other way.
Yeah.
And so much of what's being depicted is not it's not my way. It's
Yeah, right.
What's your way, Todd?
well, like I said, it's my way is a way of embracing, that God embraces all people and that we're called to love God with all our heart, mind, and soul and love our neighbor as ourself, even when our neighbor is our enemy, even when our neighbor is someone that we disagree with, or that we're to love all people and that what God created, all of it was good, you know?
Todd, I was raised Episcopalian and my parents were very metaphysical and I was exposed to a very religious, ugh, ugh, in boarding school. That was not what I was used to being. It was hellfire and brimstone. But the guy that was the minister where I went was brilliant. And so I really got a sense of Christ's consciousness, Christ's teachings. Really, I have it inside of me, you know, it's a beautiful thing, and I'm really grateful for it no matter all the stuff that I've gone through. And what I think is important is to be what I wanna be able to be is not only a reflection, but also I wanna be a comfortable place that people can come and explore. Mm,
Uh-huh,
curiosity, um, I want them to feel comfortable bringing everything to
and
me and talking to me. I actually, years ago, had a very interesting conversation with an atheist, and in my head, it was interesting because I was having a conversation with God while I was listening, and in my head, I was thinking, "You know what? We're more alike than we're different." He's
right,
just using different words,
right,
you to describe it, but the way that his values were the same as mine, his way of being in the world was the same as mine, and so I thought, "Wow, isn't that sad that there's a lot of people that we can't experience love with or whatever because of how we define them by the words that they're using to
right,
talk that connection," right?
right. Yeah, most definitely, and that, we're called to love beyond our disagreements, beyond our divisions. And
Beautiful.
yeah,
And by the way, I've learned how freaking metaphysical Christ was. It's
yeah,
talking about how powerful the word is.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you start really delving into things, it's like, well, you can manifest things by just burn. It's like, well, didn't Christ tell us that?
Well, that's right. Very most definitely. And I mean Christ in his own way was breaking down barriers, breaking down, kind of old constructs of understanding the relationship between humans and God, and really helping us to see that it's not that we can never earn God's love. It's never about how, following all the purification rites that came through the laws and the commandments. Rather, it was about just believing that we have a loving God. And the thing that I've come to realize is that there's the infinite power of God, which is out there, but it's
Yeah.
also here in our hearts. It's a both and, that
Yeah.
is a paradox. And so it's just about really deepening and going more deeply into who we are as our true self in our source, and then living from that place, which is all love. And I think with the Enlightenment, in the 17th century, that there became this duality between God and humanity, but it's really all wrapped up together. It's all together.
Yeah.
And um, and so if it's all together, then isn't God always acting in a unifying way to bring unity,
Yes.
to bring connection, which the irony is that so much of religion separates and divides. So you know
Well, the faith tradition that I adopted in 2007, the Baha'i faith, um, we respect all major religions. And the way that I've learned it there, I kind of call myself I remember learning about a friend of mine whose dad grew up a Mormon, but then left that faith, and he was referred to as a Jack Mormon. I kind of feel like I'm kind of like a half-assed Baha'i because I really, really love the tenets of the faith, like, you know, uh, they encourage you independent investigation of truth and equality of women and men and the importance of science and education and all these things. But there's a lot of things that, I don't read or memorize or whatever. But they're all about unity. And what they talk about is in the different prophets of the time come when the people are ready, right? Like this Abraham, Zoroaster, Jesus, etc. And the way it was explained to me was that God's light is so bright that it can somebody that's not prepared for it, it can just blast you apart. And so there's this prophet that it can go through and then come to you so that you can take it. And that's a lot to take in for somebody that may not be exploring at that level. But for somebody like me and Cynthia, it's like, bring it, bring it. Uh,
right.
I wanted to ask Todd, what, like first drew you to, ministry, like then and then versus now your faith?
Well, what brought me to be into the Lutheran Christian path was I had had a born again experience when I was 14, which was very powerful, and really was my first taste of a faith community, and being a part of a faith community, and
Yeah.
experiencing how loving that was. But then I really rejected some of the way it was taught there, because it was very conservative, fundamentalist, evangelical. And um and so when I was at UCLA, after I got out of the Marine Corps, I went to UCLA to finish my college. I went to a Lutheran church and heard a message of we're to love God and to love our neighbor as ourselves. And so, um, then after I graduated college, I had no idea what I was going to do with my life.
Mm.
And so one Sunday at church, after helping to serve communion, the presence of the Spirit came over me, and what I heard was, "This is where you belong, up here leading." And so then kind of all the doors opened after that. It was an epiphany. It was a sense of calling. And my conversation initially was, "Are you sure?" because I like to drink, I like to get in trouble, I like to, carouse, I like to, you know, just be out there.
Yeah.
And what I heard back was, "You're exactly who we want," and so and
I
so
love it so
yeah,
much.
so I think that has only deepened, and what's changed between now and then is that, well, and there was a time where when I left the ministry, it it was not I did not experience a loving God. I did not experience a loving religion. I was very, judgmental, uh, and it to me was hypocritical. It was like, "Okay, you call us to teach grace and love and forgiveness, but yet maybe that's not always how it rolls." Um, and so for me, what I've how it's changed for me is just I've come to a deeper sense of how much God loves me, of how much grace is there, how much mercy and forgiveness, and that God will never leave me no matter what. And I've learned, I think one of the shifts has been is that faith is expansive,
Mm.
like because over the over the last 10 years, I mean, I've woven in some Native American spirituality through
Yeah.
the, Sweet Medicine Sundance Path, and,
Love
you
it.
know, teachings from Garasa and Kalindi and Center of the Golden One, that expanded me, Yogananda, doing
Yogananda.
yeah, yeah. So all of those things,
Yes, yes, yes.
so that faith is expansive. Faith is like a weaving or a tapestry that has different threads, and but it's all God. It's all,
Right.
it all connects more deeply within myself, but also connects me with the universe, my connection as part of the universal creation. And so that's probably what's changed for me, I've let it go of a lot of old patterns. I was always been a people pleaser, and so it's and that's all resurrection, new life, restoration, and it
Yeah.
keeps.
Hey, Todd, I think it's interesting. You kind of went past it, but you're a Marine?
Oh, I am. Yes, once a Marine, always a
That's
Marine.
right.
So
So
yes, someone asked.
how do you marry those aspects of yourself?
Oh well, and I think that uh,
It's good.
from something that actually I learned from Kalindi around that we're all searching, we're all yearning, we want something more, we want something deeper. And so that helped me to understand my experience of why I went into Marine Corps, because I was, when the first time I ever met a Marine recruiter in high school, I looked at him. He was sharp, he was confident, he was well, and he held his chest out, and he spoke with a certitude
You
and
want that.
confidence, and so I was like, I want that.
Yeah, yeah,
I
sure.
want what he's got.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so then when I was old enough to join and to enlist, I did that because I wanted what they had. I didn't have a very high self-esteem, but I yearned for something that I saw,
Yeah,
bravery, leadership, valor, all these high virtues. Just like, and so that's why I went and became a Marine. And and it was interesting because with the first Persian Gulf War, I just gotten out a couple years before. I
Well,
ended up protesting, and it was just because I didn't believe that my fellow Marines who are still in the Marine Corps deserved to go into a situation that to me wasn't a justification. So I think that for me, the way I reconcile it is just that it's as a person of faith, there are certain virtues that I seek to live into, and and the very best virtues I believe of the military is protection and just defending, defending the honor of. You know, so yeah, I think That's how I saw it. And one of the great mottos in the Marine Corps is "Semper Fidelis," always faithful to God, country, and corps. And so, but God is first, and so and we're defending the freedom of all people, the freedom, all. That's why I struggle.
Until we get the politicians involved.
Well, that's right. That's right. Well, and I think that these generals that have been, forced to resign have had to do that because they didn't agree,
Yeah.
that there are policies that were going against the very best virtues of which to me the military
Offers up.
and represents,
Right.
So
That's
yeah,
an interesting, I and a lot of the teachings, because I studied Yogananda for years, Christian, Hindu, uh, and the Baha'i faith teaches that we're soon to, this is the time period right now, we're getting ready to go into 1,000 years of incredible peace, by the way. But, and then I ask, why did my soul elect to come right now?
right,
But, you know, uh, but it's, because in my higher self, I would like for all of us to get along, but, it's like, that's not what this is in the earth plane, that's however it's set up. Like, I'm gonna have a lot of questions when I go to the other side. Like, why do we have to eat each other?
sure, oh, sure,
Fuck to eat each other, please.
Right? I mean, because I love animals, but then I love plants and I love trees, and it's like, wait a minute, what? But and there are, by the way, some gurus out there, not very many, but a few that can live on air, period. But,
right,
and so you can get in a deeper conversation, uh, but that takes me away from what's going on today and what am I running from today and how can I come in today? And you know what? I always ask God, you know, to talk to me and let me do his will and be careful what you ask for because
right,
I mean, I'll have a hard lesson that'll come in that may not be hard for somebody else. Like I'll go through a bitchy period and I'm just feeling really bitchy. And I'm lucky I have a very good friend and sister, Cynthia, that just gives me total unconditional love. And
right,
brings tears to my eyes because she's consistently loving with me.
right,
And it's really actually at my old age healing a part of me, actually.
Oh, wow.
But, it's just, when that comes in though, uh, when I get that kind of love from somebody, it gives me a chance to pause, use metacognition, connect with God. And, what I got the other day was, have you felt this feeling before?
mhm,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, right? It
So but we have that opportunity to do that every single second that we breathe,
right,
right? And
r
I wanna be able to be kind to people. I wanna
right,
be able to be, respectful of humans that are out there, and if there's a way that I can make people feel good, not in a codependent, people-pleasing, whatever way, but in a just a
real.
letting God's light shine through me, right?
Yes, yes.
Right?
mhm, mhm,
So, I love it when that happens because then I've heard this, Todd, maybe you know what this is. There's a better way to say it, but I'm gonna just say it the way I've heard it. So, sometimes when I ask God to use me, it's like the light comes through me and then to another person, and I can feel God just working through me, using
right.
the vessel, and it feels so good. And it's like, I feel like I'm a slut for God, and one of my friends that's
Corey said that.
therapist said there were women, or in particular, that were sluts for God,
Yes.
meaning, to be a priest
Yeah.
because it feels so good when that energy is coming through you. And,
Mhm,
what's great about that is if somebody looks at you and they get confused and they think it's coming from me, it's like, "Oh, no. This is between you and God."
Yeah.
right.
What is that, Todd?
That's a good one. I on that note, I think this piggybacks right there on that, what is that? guilt and shame about even approaching God because I love sex. Okay. I love pleasure. I love to drink when I want to drink, sometimes other things and stuff like that.
Right.
So, and I'm deeply, deeply, deeply spiritual and in love with God. Lynn knows that, you know that. And sometimes I feel, God, I shouldn't, you know, in the earlier days, I felt a lot of shame just approaching uh the depth of what I wanted to change and grow and expand into in him, into my truer, more authentic self. You know what I'm saying? Oh, authentic, such an overrated word, but my, what would you call it, Lane?
I
Who
think that no, it is.
more of who I am, period.
Well, and to get beyond the rhetoric that has been keeping you in a box.
Exactly. Rhetoric when I was a child growing up, my mom's and then, in the a certain spiritual program that I was with, organization for about 30 years, and that did a number on me. It took me a while to come out of that into my own knowing of who I am in God and how I can serve in a much greater capacity. And that's where I am today. And I'm always learning more. Always. I'm not right. But how did you come back into the fold? I'm sure you had to contend with guilt, shame, whatever, that kind of stuff for
Right.
your own self, back into your faith and ministry and stronger than ever before.
Yeah, well, I think it was, because I was in that same community with you, and that's why I came to Denver, um, and I think that I got to the point where it helped me really go to really be able to listen more intently to what Spirit was saying, and to let go of, different things that were standing in the way.
Oh,
And then what it brought me to was, uh, as I really began to question some of the tenets of that path.
Yeah.
In the midst of that, I heard a voice that said, "Okay, now it's time to come back. You've done all this work, and now it's time to come back into to to where you have such joy, and this is really how I've
uh,
crafted you to be a teacher, a healer, a counselor, pastor,
so-
and so now it's time to come back." And then one of the things was like, oh, that means I'm gonna probably have to face some shame, some guilt. And at the same time, I had already worked through a lot of that already. And so it was really a matter of just trusting and knowing that there was an openness, uh, and that this was, but it's funny because when I've been just celebrating being in Colorado for 4 years. When I came to Colorado, I had no idea that I would be where I am now. And
married to a
so
beautiful jet.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I
and
love her. She's
my
so I
wife, and
love her. She's
yeah,
You
yeah,
guys are such a perfect combo of humans.
well, thank you.
Well,
Thank
they
you.
grow each other too. I love that
Thank
part.
you. Yeah, 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 and then, so it was just it kind of became this thing where it's just like, and then coming back into the ministry, I mean, I was just fully embraced and loved and welcomed in, and
Oh,
so it was really, that was a healing
yeah, that's
experience.
awesome.
But when I heard that voice that said it's time to come back,
Yeah,
it's like it's just like, okay, so that was like a renewed sense of calling, and knowing that I was coming back in, having transformed and having been through so much, having been, in a sense, a phoenix rising from the ashes,
sure.
being resurrected and restored.
How
I
poignant.
I knew that. Yeah, yeah.
Phoenix The Phoenix is one of my favorite. I always go back to that. And whenever something's happening out there in the world, by the way, something major that happens, I always look for the phoenixes rising from the ashes because they're always rising,
Mm,
right?
Yeah.
yeah.
So
Oh.
to just be able to give hope. What I had having in my head when you were talking about coming back, Todd, when that voice was telling you, okay, I was seeing uh, like you doing cartwheels like a little kid and
Really.
enjoying yourself, and I was seeing all kinds of little cartoon, rainbows and like fun stuff. It's like, you get to go bring yourself and your bigger self into a place where where you are. They need you. They
Right.
need you to be this new version of yourself that's more open because people will be able to hear you that need to hear.
Well,
Right.
right, right. No, no, for sure, because of my own lived experience,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
can speak more and more from that place.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Good question. Go ahead, Lane. You were gonna
No,
say
I was just gonna say, and you become a safer person for somebody to be able to come and sit down and explore
well,
because
Right.
right?
Well, right, and it's broken down. It's kind of dismantled my own ways of judging other people as well. I'm a lot less
true.
judgmental, and because it's a lot of that judgmentalism comes out of my own judgment of myself.
Of course.
So the
Always.
more I love myself, the more it enables me to love others. And it's with God's love that's and again, but God's love is when you get more centered and more in depth with your true self, with your core, with your source, then that transforms who you are with yourself and with others.
Mm.
And we're all like you've talked about, Cynthia, we're always growing. We're never gonna be perfect. My dad used to say, "As far as I know, there was only one person that was perfect. He died thousands of years ago."
Yeah.
But, um, yeah,
Question.
go
Yeah.
ahead.
How do you, show up differently in love, like in, let's say, in your romantic relationship with Jet? Because I know you've grown as you both, in relationship. But how do you show up differently than you used to, let's say, or
Well, I think it's as I again, it gets back to as I love myself more, it allows me to love others more, including my partner, my wife. And
Mm,
um and so it's just really accepting her for her, and her accepting me for me.
mhm.
And then just I think just
Yeah.
in knowing that really at the core of things, it's like no one else, even my partner, can fulfill me, can it's but it the relationship enriches who I am and helps me grow into who I am, and it helps me to I think where I've grown and changed is I don't look to my partner to give me that those things that only God can give me,
Well,
that
and
and it's
isn't that about growing beyond our biology,
sure.
Wow, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Because when we're unconscious, my image is that we're all just caught up in being
Mm,
the biological human, there's no separation of church and state, there's no soul, whatever, and you're just worrying about where you're going to get your next meal, who you're going to get together with so you can procreate, all that stuff. And so then you're caught up in the psychology that's in all that. What
mm,
did I not get from my parents? Blah, 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 blah. And then you pick somebody for that. And so you're not seeing, I just think of when I was really unconscious when I was younger
Uh-huh.
and I was unconsciously picking guys that to meet a need that I didn't even know I had. It
well,
was so self-centered. And by
Right.
the way, I always loved God in there. Cynthia knows that about me. I always loved God, but it was so separate. It was
Sure.
like a whole separate thing, you know?
well, I think you also had this, I don't even know what you call it, innate God clock. You were always driven by, something strong and intense. It's that desire, that longing, that
Yep.
that I was kinda raised with spiritually. You've always had that, so that's why we played real hard. We screwed up really hard, you know what I mean? I really believe that kinda stuff. That's our teacher.
Yeah,
Um,
that's true.
so
Well, Todd, if you were gonna talk to your people today, what's what's one kind of message or a bit of love you'd like to give people today?
Yeah.
Well, just to A, know that you're loved, and B, that the more we live into to our own understanding of our to our own love that
Wow.
comes from God, but also is within us, then that enables us to love others as we let go of our own self-criticism, our self-judgment, our self-loathing,
Yeah.
that as that changes who we are, that then changes how we engage in the world. That as we live more into that love within ourselves, it enables us to share that love more profoundly in the world, and that we are embraced for who we are, and to champion our own identity and uniqueness. We're I was just reading from Psalm 139. We are fearfully and wonderfully made. That we're made with awe and wonder. And
Mm.
God it created us with awe and wonder, and so to see ourselves the way God sees us, and then to see others. So it's like, help me to love me the way you do, Lord. Help me to see myself the way you see me. Uh, Help me to be in the world the way you see me being in the world, and that's yeah, and to be kind to yourself, and to be gentle with yourself. Um, because that always flows out, and I think that's the way God works, is God pours poured out his love to us and through us. It's
Mm.
not just for us, it's that we share it.
Yeah.
We're vessels, we're instruments, that God pours it out through us.
Let me be an instrument of your peace.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. It's
that's
like we're all little light bulbs if, we allow it. Just
right.
yeah.
That's right.
So this conversation just reminds us that, well, reminds me especially what's hitting true, Lane, is that faith isn't truly about perfection or doing it always right. It's really about honesty, humility, and the courage to come back to yourself, Todd, because that's what I keep getting over and over when you're talking, is coming back to yourself. So, Todd, thank you so incredibly much, and so grateful for being our guest. You're an incredible man of God. And for everyone, thank you for spending time with us today. If this episode gave you another way to think about faith, let's say, hit subscribe below and join us next time for another honest, curious conversation. Thank you all.